welcome to the program. This is Politics Today, live channels television. I'm Sean Kimbaloye in Abuja. Let's begin by letting you know the views of the Attorney General of the Federation and the Ministry of Justice, Chief Lateef Fagbemi, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, on the prosecution of some minors. He says there is no law that exists in the country that prohibits the prosecution of minors. Fagbemi says the offense with which they were charged, referencing the prosecution of the minors arrested in relation to the End Bad Governance protests and recent arraignment of some of the protesters, including some young ones charged with treason, was not inappropriate as claimed in some quarters. The AGF, Mr. Fagbemi, spoke in Abuja at the inauguration of the new office of a law firm, the Law Corridor.
The facts in possession of the security agencies, you will marvel. But the president has come out to say, in spite of all this, I have children, I have grandchildren, if not great-grandchildren. And that was what motivated his largesse or his passion to release them and also enable them in some ways. So the credit goes to him for giving a compassionate consideration to the release, the treatment of the young chaps that were released. But let me seize this opportunity to clarify something. People were under the impression that because they are children, they are minors, all sorts of theories have come up. There is no law in this country which says a minor cannot be tried. And I've also heard, they should go to a family court. A study of the law and the Constitution leaves you to no other conclusion that it is the Federal High Court that has jurisdiction in matters bordering on treason and allied matters. So the chapter is good. But what about the situation? The president has closed the chapter by his decision to have these young men released.
But the AGF equally spoke on the implementation of the Supreme Court judgment on the local government autonomy.
It takes time to actually get a full implementation, but it is on, and by the time we come out with the full implementation, everybody will be happy. I will not start a project that I won't be able to finish. The president is happy with it, everybody is happy, and the way the public has come out their reaction to the decision of the Supreme Court suggests that the president couldn't have done better than he has done on this matter.
The Attorney General of the Federation, Mr. Lateef Fagbemi, speaking on some national issues at the opening of a law firm in Abuja, the Law Corridor. Well, let's take a look at some of the political roundup. And when we come back, are you satisfied with the state of the economy? It does look like there are fears that members of the National Assembly had when they called those who are heading the major agencies running the Nigerian finance system, including the Minister of Finance and the Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Mr. Wale Edun. They were explaining their position on the policies of the federal government in sustaining or maintaining the economy. What it looks like today. Is it something you are proud of as a Nigerian that gets our attention tonight? But let's check your political roundup.
President Bola Tinubu's recently appointed ministers have been urged to prioritize the administration goals over personal interest. At the ongoing induction retreat for the new ministers, the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Mr. George Akume, stressed that the administration is committed to tackling poverty, enhancing security, driving economic diversification, and improving critical structures. He advised the ministers to work together as a cohesive team to achieve these goals.
As custodians of public trust and stewards of national resources, I urge you to embrace transparency, accountability, and a culture of excellence in every decision you make. Your work should reflect a commitment to the values of integrity, diligence, and patriotism.
Former military head of state and chairman of the National Peace Committee, retired General Abdulsalami Abubakar, has appealed to the candidates and political parties contesting in the Ondo state governorship election to accept the results of the election under the condition that it is credible, free and fair. General Abubakar was speaking in Akure, Ondo state capital, at the signing of the peace accord ahead of the November 16 governorship election in the state.
I also urge the party leaders and candidates to accept the outcome of the elections as long as it is adjudged to be free, fair, and creditable.
Meanwhile, Governor Abba Yusuf of Kano State has appropriated 31% of the state budget to education. The governor stated this during the presentation of the 2025 appropriation bill to the State Assembly in Kano. Governor Yusuf is proposing to spend 549.16 billion naira for the 2025 fiscal year. The National Human Rights Commission Special Investigative Panel on Human Rights Violation in Counterinsurgency Operations in Northeast Nigeria has exonerated the Nigerian military of alleged human rights violations in the Northeast. The 7-member panel, chaired by former Supreme Court Judge Justice Abdul Aboki, investigated the allegations of human rights violations in the Northeast, including the violations labeled against the Nigerian military by the Reuters news agency. Reuters had reported that the military committed abuses like forced abortions on women, extrajudicial killings, among others. Lastly, a group of supporters of the FCT Minister Nyesom Wike have raised allegations that some political opponents in Rivers State are planning to sponsor members of the civil society organizations to stage an anti-government protest in Abuja next week. Speaking under the banner of Wike Generation Next, the group said the protest is aimed at discrediting the recent court judgment on the Rivers State Appropriation Bill and the leadership of the Rivers State House of Assembly. The leader of the group, Okazu Powers, accused Wike's opponents of attempting to manipulate public opinion against the judiciary and President Bola Tinubu, despite the president's effort to address the political crisis in Rivers State.
Thank you so much, everyone. There you have it. You've been served with your political roundup stories. Now, the state of the Nigerian economy gets us talking tonight. Since the Bola Tinubu government came into force, there were certain issues that have emerged in the handling of the economy by the present administration. And so, well, it does look like the senators are concerned about that, and the Senate Committee on Finance has begun engagement with the federal government on the viability of the various economic reforms that have now look like worsening the situation and the hardship now that some Nigerians are facing. But since President Bola Tinubu assumed office on the 29th of May, prices of goods and services have incrementally gone off a spiral, and especially the price of the PMS, petrol, and as well, other things like electricity and some form of energy. The high cost of living has also spiked. The removal of fuel subsidy and the devaluation of the naira is being blamed for some of the issues, causing some companies to shut down and citizens to go hungry. And with this situation in the economy, the committee in the Senate, the National Assembly, had invited the federal government to engage on some of these issues and finding out what exactly whether or not some of the policies of the federal government is sustainable or viable. And there were questions and there were answers. But whether or not those answers are enough is another thing. Whether or not those policies will be continued, another question. Whether or not Nigerians are satisfied with the way the government is running the economy, that's another question. We'll be asking all of these questions. But let me give you some soundbites of what the engagement looked like in the Senate. Take a listen.
The key pillars in order to restore fiscal viability, not just to NNPC in particular, but the country as a whole. There was the twin macroeconomic reforms, bold, courageous, and effective, of having petroleum motor spirit, PMS, a market-based price, market pricing of PMS, and market pricing of foreign exchange. these two pillars of the economic reform, once in place, portend additional revenue for government, recovery of the finances of NNPC, and a basis for growing the economy, a basis for attracting investment, increasing productivity, encouraging creation of jobs.
We gather to deliberate on the pressing matters related to the sales of crude oil to domestic refineries in Nigeria, in Naira, and its implication on the approved medium-term expenditure framework and fiscal strategy paper for 2024-2026, and what we should expect for 2025-2027. Additionally, we will examine shortfalls in NNPCL revenue remittances, focusing on key areas such as foreign and domestic excess crude accounts, the signature bonus account, NNPCL cash call account, and any outstanding unremitted revenue linked to under recoveries.
There you have it. That's the engagement there. But look, in all of this is an oversight by the federal lawmakers to the executive arm of government. When things are done wrong, the National Assembly has the power of oversight to call the executive to order. That is the power and the principles of checks and balances as established on any democratic governance, and in fact, enshrined in our Constitution. The National Assembly shall play an oversight role on the executive arm of government. But are they doing that as well as they should do it to the interest of the Nigerian people? Let's get some answers tonight. I'm being joined by the Senate Committee Chair on Finance, Senator Sani Musa. Is live for us here in our studio. It's a pleasure having you join us tonight. Thanks so much indeed.
Thank you very much, Shehu.
Let me start by asking you, is the 8th of November, Senator, and the President has not presented the 2025 budget. It's coming rather late in the day already. What could be the delay?
Thank you very much, Shehu. You can see since the inception of this administration, so many reforms, policies of government have been coming up. And we appreciate the fact that the economic team are doing their job the way it's supposed to be done. We also, as lawmakers, expect that we shall be given budgets timely so that we can start working on them. But we also, at the same time, will not want a situation whereby a document will just be presented to us without adequately. Because if you recall, the beginning of this administration in 2023, there have been a lot of noise by Nigerians that we were rushing at policies. So I believe Mr. President is now considering those lot of voices that Nigerians made in making sure that the budget he's bringing is a budget that will rediscover the economy of Nigeria. So I don't think it's late. I believe Mr. President is doing what he's supposed to do in order to checkmate whatever lapses we had in 2023 and then correct them in 2025 budget, 2024 budget, and correct them in 2025 budget. So for me, it's not too late. We are just in November. It doesn't matter. I mean, we can scrutinize the budget, and we don't. The president doesn't have to sign the budget on 1st of January. For us to do the great and good job, we can take our time, scrutinize the budget very well, and then present it at the time we feel it's okay. We have all seen it.
So the reason why I'm saying that it took us several years. I mean, you are aware of is that Nigeria has run a very awkward budget calendar, such that a lot of the times the normal yearly calendar and our budget calendar have never worked in synchronym. And we saw that the Buhari government made frantic effort in normalizing, and for several budget windows, give it to the Buhari government. Even under Okonjo-Iweala, at some point you will have seen that there is a practice of bringing the budget in about October which gives the National Assembly 2.5 months or so to scrutinize the budget and send it back to the executive. But you will have less than a month to be able to do your, you and your colleagues who want to go for Christmas break. And the fear is that we are going back, we might be going back to the old days where a lot of people felt it was awkward for us not to have an alignment with starting the year with a new budget. And that's a fear, Senator.
Sheun, what we need to understand is that at the National Assembly, we do not have a fixed date, or as you said, you just have 1 month to scrutinize the budget. There are so many committees in the National Assembly, and each committee looks at where it does its oversight. So the committee at its own, at the level of committees, they will look at this proposal, because whatever the president is bringing to the National Assembly is a proposal. They will look at this proposal, budget proposal, and scrutinize it. You see, we, like the Finance Committee, were over 58 members. And I can, as a matter of diligence, decide that, look, we divide ourselves into subcommittees to look at every part of that budget that is being proposed by Federal Ministry of Finance and its agencies, and make our recommendation, make our report to the Appropriation Committee. And for me, I believe that there will be enough time. And we can do it between November and December. As I told you, it's not necessary for us as legislators to impose when we know that it's going to be difficult to say by 31st December we must pass the budget.
So the reason I'm asking this question, the reason why it's critical is whether or not there is a communication already from the executive, since you are in the same political party, as the reason why the budget has not come. It has come over the years in October, but it's in November now. Has they communicated any reason why the budget hasn't come up till now?
The communication is coming. Let me remind you, we have reviewed wages, we have reviewed a lot, there were a lot of policies, we have removed subsidy, we have made it possible that even the currency, the foreign exchange
have you
market...
removed currency really, Senator?
Of course.
Are you sure?
There
hasn't been any spending at all under this government on subsidy.
No.
Are you sure?
When you're talking about spending under this subsidy, under this government, I will tell you there is no spending, because that was what we had yesterday. That is the reason why we called the NNPC group chief executive to come and explain to Nigerians, or explain to the committee first, what is happening. Is there subsidy? And what from all our takes, even, from June 2023, after the pronouncement of Mr. President, the economic stability in terms of whether we spend in subsidy or not has reduced drastically. And over time, it has been removed completely. And today, we have been able to remove subsidy out of our economic...
On paper?
Yeah, not on paper.
Let me tell you,
practically.
And I'm glad that you have economic background,
yes,
Senator.
Yeah.
And it's easy to understand that when they say market forces is
the
at
timing,
play, you do know that the prices will undulate, will go up and down. Because if, for example, and this is a straightforward economics, when the value of what you use in buying the crude or you spend in the exchange of the refined product and it's in dollar, and your own currency is going up and down. That means whenever the dollar is going up or going down, it affects the price of the commodity in which you have exchanged for.
No, you should.
It's a natural phenomenon, Senator.
It's natural, but you should also remember that the crude oil, even if it is domestic or we are bringing it from any other place, either refined and brought into this country, crude oil is being sold at international market and it's foreign, it's dollar-based pricing. So for me, when we said we have removed subsidy and allowed the market to determine its prices, to determine it depends on willing buyer, willing seller policy. And for me, some of the issues that came up on why are we going to sell crude oil to Dangote Refinery is in order to stabilize the market, in order to reduce the pressure on going for foreign exchange. if we have the commodity in Nigeria and we have somebody that will be willing to refine it based on that international price of the crude oil, we give him, and he pays in Naira. And when he pays in Naira, it doesn't matter if I'm having a filling station in Kaduna and I'm going to Lagos to take fuel to bring to Kaduna. There is no anybody subsidizing anything for me. So when I get to Kaduna, I know how much it costs me to get this fuel from the refinery and how much it's to get it down to my filling station. So I will fix the price. So price is being determined by the seller.
So the question,
issue you're trying to say is that
the prices are not reflecting.
No, the issue you are trying to say
the market phenomenon.
No, it is.
It is not. Because if the prices were stagnant, were not reflecting the undulating nature of the FX to the Naira. And you imagine
once subsidy is removed, there's no way prices will be stagnant. There is no way you can fix prices.
No. The question
There's
is that,
no way.
Yeah. On paper, we say we have removed subsidy.
Yeah.
But for several months, for more than 6 months, the prices remain the same.
No.
Does that make sense to you,
Senator? Listen. If prices remain the same, look at the possibility that midstream and downstream regulatory agency must have decided that, look, we usually charge certain things. We have to pull out from charging those things.
Is that the situation,
It's
Senator?
very possible.
No, is that the situation?
It's very possible.
Because there are those who feel that this government is not transparent enough
No.
on how they have embellished and how they have cooked the books in such a way that Nigerians are not being told the truth about how they've subsidized, even when they said they've not subsidized.
I do not understand what you even get to know about subsidy. I don't know if you can maybe explain to me your own understanding of the subsidy. My own understanding and what it is in reality is that government is not going to put any money in supporting the supply of ever PMS. We have done it with diesel in this country. We have done it with diesel. And people still buy diesel. So if we are doing it with PMS, what is the problem?
But did you hear what NNPCL said recently?
That what?
Not long ago. That NNPC said they were not paying. In fact, they are in debt. NNPC came out to say they are in debt. They had problems.
They were in debt. They were in debt. That's what they said. Because
when they faced you, what did they tell you?
The subsidy regime have gone, and there is no way today NNPC will tell you that they are incurring any liability in terms of either fuel importation or distribution of fuel in Nigeria.
Let me then ask you directly, Senator. What did the NNPCL tell your committee about their remittances? Because there are those who have accused that company of opaqueness in the manner in which they have administered their books, which of course we do know that it's largely still owned by the federal government of Nigeria.
You know, we as a committee, we went on the fact findings. And our fact findings is not far from some of the questions you have raised now. We looked at sales of crude oil to domestic refineries, which is local, and what are the implications to the economy. And we believe that from the explanation we've got is the best way to go. Is the best way to go because it will reduce pressure and, most of the discussion we did was centered on the fact that there was an approved MTEP, which takes care of the budget. I mean, predicated what the budget would look like. And part of that is that there will be complete removal of subsidy. And based on that, we were looking at the fact that what if you sell in Naira, are you going to sell it at the value of the foreign exchange, the value of the international market, crude price at the international market? If that is what you do, we do not have any problem with that. Our books will be correct and will be balanced. We're in a situation where there will be, just as you are talking about shortfalls, either going up or down, that means if it goes up, we will have to ask questions. Who is going to take care of the differences? In a way, that means there is subsidy. But the explanation we got is that there won't be any of that because the price at which they will give, even based on the Naira, is going to be an international pricing. And then when you are talking about the remittances of NNPC, and that is one of the major reasons why we call for the fact findings, because we've been hearing about discrepancies here and discrepancies there, especially to do with maybe excess crude stabilization fund, cash calls. And we found out that, I mean, when you see all these things, you will see that NNPC is at the center of it. And we feel it's necessary for us to invite the group managing director to come and explain to us. And based on his explanation and what input we got from the chairman of the RAMFAC, that's Revenue Mobilization and Allocation, Physical Allocation Commission, what he came up with was really, really something that the committee took very seriously, and we asked the Minister of Finance, we asked the Group Managing Director, Group Chief Executive Officer of NNPC to give us explanations of if they are underpayments. And just the question you had earlier asked that NNPC was talking about quite a lot of liabilities. But we also want to make sure that there is a complete forensic audit of NNPC books so that all the gray areas where the discrepancies that we are all talking about, we bring them out. And monies that are supposed to go to consolidated revenue funds, clearly we identify why they are not there. We also identify monies that are supposed to go to the federation account, which when I talk about federation account, that's money that belongs to all, including the subnational. So we looked at them critically, and I believe that there is need for us to further look at the books of both the NNPC and then also reconcile with the Office of the Accountant General of the Federation.
Now, there is a damning report, if I may call it, on the NNPCL by the World Bank. But before I get into that, in September, we experienced some few shortages in the country. Some few queues started growing, and there are worries as to the availability of the product. And we discovered that oil traders were having some underlying problems with the NNPCL. That Cold War went on, and eventually the NNPCL came to town to say they are owing oil traders $6 billion US. Did they tell you about that money? And how would that be offset?
Sheun, you should know that previous macroeconomic policies in this country were very distortionary and very unsustainable. And when you focus on thinking how far we have come today, with the coming of this administration, his policies, the president, His Excellency President Ahmed Bola Tinubu, came in with some kind of bold, decisive decisions. And those decisions today, over time, will transform to give Nigeria what we supposed to have. And part of the problems we're having, these things you are talking about are not issues that started in the last 18 months. These are things that have been there for many years. So when you are trying to compare, what I will expect is that from now onward, how do we intend to take care of all those things that are there as liabilities to the federal government? And this bring us to the fact that we said we have to do forensic auditing, and which I believe the federal government have initiated its own to look at the books of NNPC, look at the books of all, of the Accountant General's office, all remittances that have said to be done, which ones were done and which ones were not done. I think there's need for us to look at that. And then significantly, you can see that the reforms from 2023 to date, I don't understand when you said in books, but when you look at economic indices, you will see that what we have done now is to strengthen the economy and make it more stringent for those lapses, those leakages that we used to have, and we do not have
the realities of the subsidy regime are double-faced. So on one hand, because $6 billion US, there are a lot of questions. The federal government has said the president was not lying. The presidency did not lie. The federal government did not lie about not paying fuel subsidy. There are those economists who say, no, there are still some discrepancies about the subsidy regime. And when the $6 billion US issue came up, when the NNPCL came to town to say we were owing $6 billion, there are those who made the inferences that these were some obligations, some subsidy through the NNPCL. Senator, I don't know if those clarities were being made.
I'm still telling you.
Did they make those clarities,
I'm still telling you that the policies we have come in with is to bring stability, macroeconomic stability in this country. And when you're talking about $6 billion, I cannot confirm.
$6 billion.
When you're talking about $6 billion.
Just to be clear, that is not naira.
No. $6 billion, I cannot confirm to you right here until when that forensic auditing.
But NNPCL itself came out to say we are owing international oil traders so amount of money.
Then we look at the cash costs. And this is the reason why I told you I was with NNPC and the economic team yesterday is fact-finding. And from what we have heard, we felt there is need for us to call for complete forensic auditing of those books.
Do you think that?
And then we will be able to determine was there $6 billion?
But do you think, Senator, when you and your colleagues were sitting with them, do you feel and have a sense that there is some opaqueness in the operation of the NNPCL? Because these are the fears of some Nigerians.
You see, there was, because as I told you, before the coming of the PIA, there are quite a lot of distortions in terms of even the operational activities of NNPC. By then, before now, you can hardly understand, in fact, you cannot even determine what the capex and opex of production is in this country. But today, with the kind of stringent policies that this government is coming in with, we are trying to see as much as possible that those lapses we have had in years before now are corrected. And for anybody to come up to saying that, oh, under this administration there is $6 billion, I would tell you categorically that there was no $6 billion
really?
Under this administration.
So NNPCL was lying.
I would tell you categorically there is no $6 billion under this administration. And if there was any, then there will be within the regime of those days when the subsidy regime was.
Okay, let's take a break. We will talk about the damning report of the NNPCL by the World Bank, and also if we want to know how the federal government, through the Minister of the Economy and the Minister of Finance, are able to defend to the Senate that the policy that they are making is working. Because the question one will ask, for you as a Nigerian, is it working in your pocket? Are these policies favoring you? Are the renewed hope agenda really hopeful for you? Is the Senate failing Nigerians that are supposed to hold the government accountable for your interests as a Nigerian? They are representing you. We'll be finding out after this break, everyone. Join us again. Welcome back, everyone. Let's tell you about the Kano politics. You do know that there's been a lot of controversies around the relationship between the governor of the state, Governor Abba Yusuf, and his political godfather, Senator Robbie Kwankwaso. But the governor has been responding to those claims, indicating that there might be some misunderstanding between both men. The governor insisting that their relationship remains strong and based on mutual respect. It did say that they've been friends for over 40 years. And it says, quote, "There is no truth in the rumors of a misunderstanding between us. In my 40 years of knowing him, tell me, who among politicians stay with someone this long and still maintain harmony?" Thank you so much, everyone. Senator Sani Musa is the chairman of the Senate Committee on Finance, and they've been scrutinizing and engaging with the federal government, the executive arm of government, on the running of the economy. So let's get back quickly before I get into the issue of the hardship and how it could be better, and whether you and your colleagues are failing your constituent whom you are representing in doing your proper oversight on the executive. Let me ask you, I'm very sure that you are privy to the World Bank report on the NNPCL. It doesn't look good at all. And there are those who will be asking the question, if this kind of report was released, the report was called AMO, which means the Accelerating Resource Mobilization Reforms, AMO. It was a report released on the 17th of May, 2024. It says that the books of the NNPCL is opaque and they lack proper corporate governance, and gave a lot of examples as how the NNPCL has failed in delivering truth and effective corporate governance to the Nigeria and shortchanging the Nigerian state. Are you privy to that report, Senator?
Yes, I am privy to that report. I have read it. And I can tell you without any fear of contradiction that Nigeria, before the passage of the PIA, we have been operating a system that we feel was more local than what is being practiced internationally. The international best practices is what we been able to put in to the PIA and which we passed, just like what is happening in other climes. Before the PIA, there were no any legislation, serious legislation to protect investors that are coming to invest in our oil industry. There are no any legislation to protect the host communities and the rest of it. So in short, what I'm trying to say is that now that we did the PIA and NNPC was unbundled and NNPC is supposed now to start operating as an entity, which you are a shareholder, I'm a shareholder, 230 million Nigerians or more are all shareholders of NNPC PLC, NNPC Limited. So they're supposed to start operating like an entity with the kind of corporate governance, in resemblance like the ones we have, Aramco and others. So it will take a little while for us to be able to see if that legislation is really working and we're getting what we expect to get out of it. And you know, in every country, legislation, everywhere, legislation is bound to be amended, to be repealed, amended. And I believe that with the committees the National Assembly have been putting to check so many things, either in the downstream or upstreams of the petroleum industries in Nigeria, will come out with reports. And by the time we gather all those reports, we'll be able to look at the legislation itself, the PIA itself, where we feel it's necessary to make some amendments, we do them. And once we do that, that will create the kind of enabling environment where NNPC will operate like an entity. Mm. And when you are talking about the reports we have received, and I have mentioned to you earlier that government is working, the federal government have instituted through the Federal Ministry of Finance, forensic auditing.
When will that happen?
The books. They are already working.
They are already on. How long will it take?
They are already working.
What is the timeline of the forensic audit?
You don't give timeline on issues like this where it took so much of years of neglect.
Any policy that doesn't have a timeline is a fraud. Any policy that doesn't have a window of the start and end.
I want you to understand.
It's not true. It's not truthful.
I want you to understand me. If forensic auditing will be done and to be seen to have been done very well, you should know that IOCs will have to be also called upon to present
and duration.
Of course, the time.
If you're building a house, we
have asked the minister, and he has told us that the team has been working, and very soon they will round up what they are doing and present the report to the government. And when they present the report to the Federal Executive Council and they've looked at the forensic report, the National Assembly also, I'm sure, will want to have that report and will look at it and do the needful. But for me, I don't see a reason why we'll say, okay, go and start forensic auditing and we give them 3 months. And after giving them 3 months, we are not able to get what we want. If we want to start this forensic auditing, it's not from 2020 to 2023. We will have to start it like from maybe 2010 to date.
Senator,
because a lot have gone
Senator,
wrong.
because we have a long list of other issues apart from the NNPC. Yeah. Senator, are you privy to... Because it does look like we're running like a banana republic. The manner in which some people are treating Nigerians, they treat us like we are fools. And Nigerians are not fools at all. There is a report we understand was presented to NEC, headed by one of the governors, but that report was not allowed to see the light of day, about the running of the NNPCL and how our crude oil have been stolen and how NNPCL's measuring system has failed. See what the World Bank report said about the NNPCL. It said it's fundamentally opaque, evasive, and deceptive, resulting in federal government and subnationals being routinely shortchanged in crude oil revenues for decades. Senator, you are aware, Senator, that they promised us that refineries were going to be ready. Refineries, the dates keep changing every other month. Why are Nigerians being taken for granted, Senator?
I am not here to...
It's unfair to Nigerians.
I'm not here to defend NNPC. Neither am here as a spokesman of NNPC of the or the government. But I can tell you I'm part of this government. And I would tell you that what you are saying or what you are reading cannot be justified. You cannot tell me just because World Bank gave a report and that report is what it is.
Don't believe what the World Bank says. Don't believe what the World Bank says. Just a moment. Don't believe what the World Bank says.
But you allow me. You have asked a question. Allow me to talk. You have asked a question.
Okay, go ahead. Because you don't believe what the World Bank says.
You have asked a question.
An indigenous company has said its own. But go ahead.
You have asked a question.
Go ahead, please.
And I want to give you an answer.
Go ahead, please.
You said NNPC is this, NNPC is that. It's opaque. Nigerians have been taken for granted by who? By the government. That is your statement. But I'm trying to correct you. I said, if World Bank presents their reports, that's World Bank report. We are here. We will look at those books. We will look at our own books. We will look at our own reports. What did I just mention to you? What cost us calling for fact-finding to know what is going on in terms of remittances from NNPC, in terms of bringing in a policy towards the end of the year where you want to sell crude oil in Naira. I told you all this things because we want to be sure that what we are doing is not going to reflect negatively on Nigerians. And what this government is doing, by virtue of the fact that we removed subsidy, removing subsidy is the best thing that has happened to this country, let me tell you. Today, how much are we earning? If the money that Nigeria is making today and the money that FARC is distributing to the state governments utilize those monies adequately, utilize those money the way they're supposed to utilize these resources, a lot of things will go
so,
on.
Senator,
but everything you just said, federal government, you said the government...
Senator, if you listen to me carefully, my question is actually targeted at helping you and your committee to look critically into the book of the NNPCL.
But that's
just remember,
that's what we are doing.
The World Bank,
doing, you don't also at the same time try to create a kind of
cohesion
between
this has gone for far
us.
too long, Senator. Has gone for far too long, and Nigerians are being taken for granted.
Nobody's taking Nigerians for granted.
Nigerians are being taken for granted.
We did not. If we took Nigerians for granted, I wouldn't have called for fact-finding. If we took Nigerians for granted,
and let me give you an example.
Nigerians for granted, I wouldn't have called for fact-finding.
Let me tell you why Nigerians are being taken for granted, Senator. I've told you what the World Bank has said, and it said that the books of the NNPCL is opaque, evasive, and deceptive, resulting that federal government and the state of the federation...
How can you prove it evasive? How can you prove that it's evasive?
The subnationals are routinely shortchanged. What they are supposed to deposit into the federal coffers is not what NNPCL is doing.
Thank you very much. But you're not allowing me to explain this to you.
Just for a moment. Take what World Bank report on one hand. If you say you don't believe what the World Bank says, this is what NITI, Nigeria Extractive Industry Transparency Initiative, said. They said that in their report, that the NNPC did not remit $2 billion in taxes to the federal government in 2022. NNPC denied it. NNPCL cannot also, according to NITI, cannot explain how it racked up debt estimated at $7 billion in August, days after declaring a net profit of $3.3 trillion at the end of 2023.
Can I make a statement?
Go ahead, sir.
When we called for fact-finding, we invited all these agencies you mentioned. We invited NNPC, we invited Federal Ministry of Finance, we invited the Accountant General of the Federation, we invited NATI, we invited Revenue Mobilization and Physical Allocation Commission. NATI did not honor our invitation. And we said, I as a chairman of that committee said, NATI and the Office of the Accountant General of the Federation must come and clear up some of these questions so that we have. So if NATI have said that, and we called NNPC, and NNPC appeared before us, and NATI that made those allegations are not there to substantiate them, how do you think we work? We cannot work until when NATI comes to give us all those facts. RAMPAC, the chairman of RAMPAC, came, MB Shehu, he came, he was there. He told us so many things. You're talking about not giving state governments enough money. Is it not the same governors that sign an agreement and engaging consultants to look at these books? And then if that money that's supposed to be paid to the consultants are paid to the states, what does that mean? Is it not going to be more money for the states? What are we talking about? Let's not be deceiving ourselves. Let's not be deceiving ourselves. If NNPC said we have remitted so amount of money, and you know that this money is not remitted, and you have facts, there is no better place for you to come than the National Assembly, where we have called for fact-finding to come and lay the books, and so that we can make that clarification. Senator, and on the basis of that, we said we have not done enough. We are not, done with NNPC. We are not done with the Minister of Finance. We are not done with all these agencies. We are still going to go further. There are a lot of discrepancies in terms of remittances, either from the cash, what is going on the cash calls, either from LNG, either from excess crude, what's supposed to go to consolidated revenue fund, what's supposed to go to federation funds. We will all look at them.
All right, Senator.
And then we make the, you see,
because we're totally out of time,
we don't
Senator,
want to rush.
And the issue that concerns the average person, I've not taken it up with you, Senator. And I'm just a bit upset that, you know, in a reasonable climb, if all of these things are going on, for example, they said they were going to deliver refineries, date upon date and upon date, and no head is rolling. Nigerians have been taken for granted, and I dare say it again. But Senator, how do you tell Nigerians tonight that you as a representative and your colleagues representing the Nigerian people, that we have all of these negative indices in the economy? What were the federal government telling you? What is the executive? How are they explaining the policy that has impoverished Nigerians more, caused more hardship on Nigerians under the renewed hope agenda? How do you explain to Nigerians tonight, Senator?
You see, the policies of this government is to see how we can move towards a market-based economy, whereby individuals, take control of the economy, not everything government doing it. And from what I have seen, the policies that this government have come in with are policies that even the advanced economies around the world, when you look at how they operate their economies, is based on that. You go to UK, you are more or less a US citizen. Your family are in the United States. They are not even here. And you know how it's been operated there. Do you sometimes even hear what government does? Do you hear about FAC allocation every month to states? Do you hear that? You don't. And that is the kind of economy that will propel whatever industrialization this country needs. Productivity has been having problems in this country. So the policies this government is coming with are policies that I believe it's not going to be so easy for us to think overnight because we make changes, because a new administration comes in, everything will go very easy. You see, we tried to change the policies that Central Bank of Nigeria have been operating before now. You can see this government have tried to exit Ways and Means, which you should commend the government for doing that. We have exited Ways and Means. And I will tell you today that these policies that you are finding very difficult, anywhere, not only Nigeria, even the most sophisticated economy like United States or China will have to face the same thing. It's a phase. As we are going out of this phase, we are going into another. But what are the short-term impacts? And what are those remedies that the government has put in place? There is so much poverty, that agreed. But there are also positive outcomes from what we are doing.
All right, Senator, because we're totally out of time, my major concern, and I wish that we have more time, my major concern is that if you say that policies are to benefit Nigerians, they're not seeing the benefits yet because their lives are not any better than it was last year. Their earnings are not any better than it was last year. Their purchasing power are dwindling terribly. Their hope of being able to purchase anything, their purchasing power had been dwarfed by the policies of the government. We need to close now. In 10 seconds, Senator. Where do the average Nigerian who cannot breathe tonight? How do they sleep?
Let me tell you before the coming of this administration, what was our budget? And where does the budget goes to? Almost everything is debt servicing. Today we have been able to bring our debt ratio to GDP
Senator,
very low.
We're totally out of time.
And no, before you go,
we're totally out of time. We're automatically.
But you should allow me to.
We'll be automatically cut off.
You invited me for interview, but you made all the noise.
Because we're defending the NNPCL. Thank you so much, Senator. Senator Sani Musa. He's the chair of the Senate Committee on Finance. Thank you so much. You should come back at some point. That's our show for tonight. Bye-bye, everyone.